Texas is live. Texas is the place. That's why you won't be. If you won't be at Texas, then you don't want to be living.
What's going on, guys? Texas Platinum is finally back. I feel like we say that a lot these days. The consistency of our videos are not what they once were, but it is the off season. But I mean, with recruiting being as unbelievably nuclear as it is right now, we absolutely need to make a video and touch base on some of these big commitments that we've gotten. Obviously, unless you're living under a rock and probably don't have access to the internet, Arch Manning did commit just about a week ago to the University of Texas, sent shockwaves through the national media as expected, and really was probably one of the best days in Texas football history in a while. Really kind of a sign of hopefully greener things to come. And then today, of course, at least as of the recording of this video on the 29th, Johntay Cook finally committed to Texas. So we're, of course, going to talk about that as well as future targets that we have that we're hoping to secure the commitments from for the 2023 class. So with all that said, welcome. If you're new here, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're slowly getting in the process of doing more videos on a more consistent basis again. Myers and I kind of dealing with a bit of a busy time right now in our lives, but certainly come the fall, we're expecting to ramp up things a little bit more. But for now, take us whenever you get us. We appreciate that. But yeah, so Myers, first off, how are you doing? And we're going to touch base on Arch Manning first. Let's just kind of go through the looking back a week ago, what that was like for us as Texas fans, and just kind of the initial reaction, both from you and everyone else, pretty much.
Right. It was honestly just an insane day. I wasn't aware that Arch Manning had committed till like 3 hours after it happened because I was on the clock and I couldn't really get to my phone. So I just went on a break and I pulled my phone out and it was just blown up. And it was just because we'd always assumed that Texas was going to be near the top for Arch Manning. And, the reports coming out of the official visit that it went well, Texas is leader, but Georgia is also very confident. So it always felt like a possibility, but I never really imagined it to actually happen. I don't know. It just seemed like kind of like too good to be true. And then sure enough, he goes on his Twitter, with following 0 people, but he has like a bunch of followers. Just one tweet, committed to the University of Texas, #Hook'em, that went viral. I think it's a well over 220,000 likes now, which is, by far the biggest commitment tweet ever, which just kind of just speaks to the magnitude of of what Arch Manning means to the University of Texas. But yeah, honestly, it was just a surreal day. I mean, the message boards were being refreshed like crazy. It was really hard to work the rest of the day. I did not accomplish anything. Just Archmania was full go. And then you hear all these reports about other recruits that immediately just their eyes were all focused on Texas because Arch made such a big decision. So man, it was shocking. It was so exciting. And it's one of those days I feel like we can look back on, hopefully, if all goes well, that this is one of those days, that one of the moments that Texas needed to get back to where they need to be at, because people might try to argue that Arch Manning will be a bust or whatever, which I mean he could be, but I just don't really see Arch Manning being I think he's going to definitely make Texas a lot more relevant than we have been. I'll say that because he's number 1 player in the country, Manning family, the first family of football. He just has so much around him and behind him. And he's got the talent, obviously. and he's got Steve Sarkisian now and AJ Milwee. So it's just like this is going to be it, Trevor. This is going to be it. It's going to take some time, obviously. He's still got another year of high school to go, but this is like exactly what we needed. So it was great. I'm still on cloud nine, and recruits are taking notice. The class is filling up very fast, as y'all know. So it was great. It was a great day, and I just can't wait to see Arch and burn orange. How about you, Trevor? What was your initial reaction on that day? I think it was a Thursday, right?
Yeah, last Thursday, I believe. Yeah, it was it was much like yours, actually. I too had a pretty busy day at work, and Madrid, of all people, who is never on the show these days, it seems like, he was the one to notify the group that Arch Manning committed, and he sent the tweet. And I thought it was fake at first, because I really didn't see him committing until at least after, if not. I know a lot of people were kind of saying like he won't commit at the Manning Passing Academy camp thing. I thought that might be where he would do it. It would make sense, I kind of expected it to be more of like a press conference setup, kind of like what Peyton did, but no, just a Thursday morning at like 11 or so, just a tweet. That's all it was. And no, I really thought it was fake, and looked into it more, and I was just like, oh my goodness, we got him, which was surprising, because like you said, there seemed to be a lot of confidence on both Texas and Georgia's side. I mean, Georgia was resoundingly confident. So I'd love to, it'll probably be a long time from now, but hear the stories about what happened there, that made Georgia feel so unbelievably confident, yet be so wrong. Yeah, but no, it was like you said. I think that this is kind of a historical day in this program. We really haven't had a commitment like this to this magnitude since Vince Young. You could really probably say Chris Sims is more of an accurate comparison between the two, being that when Vince committed, Texas was riding pretty high at that point, unlike now, coming off of a 5-7 season. I mean, even Texas was way better than that, even when Chris Sims committed. But yeah, just the magnitude of the player that Arch is. The name obviously is going to be, a big factor as well, with a name like Manning, coming from, not that his father played in the NFL, but coming from a family of just NFL Hall of Famers, really, legacies. It's a big deal, and the national media took notice. That was another thing that surprised me, because when Quinn, transferred to Texas and kind of made that commitment over to the Longhorns, I know that our group really thought that the media was going to eat it up, and really kind of expected it. I mean, we made that hype video for Quinn because we were super excited about it. But it really wasn't that talked. I mean, it was talked about, but not like Arch by any stretch of the imagination, which surprised me then. But then now when Arch committed, it was like, I mean, big time media shows like Undisputed with Skip Bayless, like they were talking about it. Of course, Colin Cowherd, all these, institutional things, Rich Eisen, you name it, it was everywhere. I think it was top of ESPN on the ticker and everything. Like that was the news of the day. And I think just about everyone, whether you're a sports fan or not, knew that, some Manning kid is committed to Texas now. Really amazing how it took off, and great for the university and our brand, I think. And just to have positive association, because it's been rough so, for the past 12 13 or so years. Just haven't gotten a lot of good publicity, and even then, I feel like there's a lot of negative backlash because of Texas's recent struggles, that they're like, oh, he's making a mistake, why is he committing to Texas? But I don't know, just the national media reaction, I think, is really another thing that excited me. Um, Also kind of frustrated me, and we will touch on this, but how wrong some opinions are and how uninformed, some national media and other people are that are not in the loop about the logistics of the Arch commitment, what that means for Quinn Ewers, what that means for Texas. But yeah, we'll touch on all that. But those are just kind of the initial thoughts. Myers, if you have anything more about that, go ahead. Otherwise, let's transition into a bit of an eval of Arch. I mean, we've done it before, but let's kind of talk about what Arch brings to this team.
Right. I'll just say before we get starting into the evaluation of Arch that I saw a tweet that I think it was from the Barstool El Prez. He said that this is objectively good for college football that Arch Manning's going to Texas. And it's just honestly one of the best storylines you could probably come up with, if you're writing a college football movie. Just the Texas Longhorns, which are probably the most hated school unanimously in all of college football, joining the SEC, led by Arch Manning, the prodigy, the newest Manning, number one overall player in the nation. It's just it's going to be must see TV, and it's going to be electric. And
Oh God, yeah.
this really makes the timeline on the SEC matter even more, because you want Arch to be the quarterback the first year in the SEC. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
and Arch wants to play in the SEC. I mean, he's an SEC legacy. So
it'll be so good. I mean, Arch, all of the SEC games, but I mean, if we play Georgia by instance, Arch going into Georgia, Arch going into Ole Miss, going home to Ole Miss. Just the storylines and all the games really are just
LSU, Tennessee.
LSU, yeah, Tennessee, Texas, even A&M. I mean, that'll be all of it. The whole season will be even if we don't do that great, it'll kind of be one to remember, I feel just because of the name on the back of the jersey.
Right. So it's going to be so fun, man. I can't wait to see it just happen over the next couple years. So, and I just can envision an Arch Manning Texas jersey. I just
gotta buy that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a top seller. So very exciting times at University of Texas, and the momentum just keeps going. It's only getting better. It seems like day by day. We're just getting blue chip commits, 5-star commits. We got 3 5-stars in 1 week, which we'll elaborate on in a second. But back to the evaluation, like you were trying to take it. Arch Manning, whenever I watch this film, things I like to look for when I'm looking at quarterbacks, and I've talked about this in the show, is how do they handle pressure? How do they make throws when they're about to be hit or when the pocket's collapsing? Because anybody can make a throw in a 7-on-7 setting, or if they have all the time in the world. But when they're under pressure, things change a lot. When there's live bullets flying, you're about to get hit in the face. And Arch, like his uncles and his grandpa, they have that sixth sense as a quarterback where they can just, they see a hit coming, they'll still deliver a perfect ball. And it's just, they seem unfazed, very poised under pressure, which is the number one thing that I love to see out of a quarterback. That's why I always thought Mac Jones would be so good in the pros, because he was a king at just standing in the pocket and taking hits, still making accurate passes under pressure. And Arch definitely has that. And, Sark loves to see that. Quinn Ewers has that as well. So that's the number one thing I noticed. I also see he's really tall.
Yeah.
I know he's playing not the best competition.
Right.
I mean, there's some good teams he plays, but yeah, it's not 6A Texas high school football. But I mean, he's just he looks a lot better built than I'll say his uncles did. He looks a little bit bigger, a little more athletic. Yeah, he just seems way more fully developed in high school at this point, compared to Peyton and Eli, which is good. And I mean, he's got a really pretty throwing motion. I mean, he looks like a Manning when he throws it. I see Trevor Lawrence in a little bit. Maybe it's the number 16 and
that's
his height that goes into
what I've always thought.
But yeah, it reminds me a lot. If you go back and watch Trevor Lawrence's high school film, they look pretty similar. But Yeah, he's just a really polished passer. I think his deep ball can improve actually. I do like him between, like in the middle of the field, and I think he's got good timing and he's very accurate on those and out routes as well. But his deep ball, I wasn't super impressed with on the highlights I saw. But I mean, that'll come with time. But he does throw a spiral more than Peyton does. I remember Peyton was always known for throwing knuckleballs. Arch throws a prettier ball than his uncle Peyton, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day as long as it's accurate. So I don't know. That's just like a couple of my thoughts on him as a prospect. Um, what do you think, Trevor? I know people want to say he's a dual threat, like he can not a dual threat, but there's a lot of his highlights are of him running. But I mean, I don't think he's gonna be running at all in college. I mean, if he has to, he can run, but
Yeah, I very much agree. In this type of Sarkisian offense, Sark really he gives quarterbacks opportunities to, like options, I guess, to run, but it's not like an option like there's no real setup running plays. Like we saw Casey kind of scramble around, and Casey's way more mobile than Sam was. Nothing against Sam, but way more mobile than Sam was, and Sam ran it a ton. Just totally different offenses. And yeah, that, and I'm just watching the film, like it's one thing to see, like you can watch a guy throw and handle pressure and everything, but like when it comes to mobility, when you're playing against, lesser opponents in the division that he's in, it's harder to tell. So like some of his film of him like running 50 yards for a touchdown and just blowing everyone out, I'm sure he's pretty good. Like he's a mobile, good quarterback, but I can't judge that yet because in reality, he might really not be like that. But we said the same. I mean, we didn't, but a lot of people said the same thing about Bijan Robinson, and that translated just fine. So I could be wrong, but yeah, I think I would just need to like see some measurements and speeds and everything to really give a good indication of that. But yeah, I see him as just kind of like a, pocket passer, but a guy that can be mobile in the pocket, kind of like Joe Burrow, as another comparison, a guy that's unafraid to move around, but still stays in the pocket. And then when needed, he will pick up extra yards pretty effectively, but he's definitely not a run first guy per se. But yeah, I mean, the comparison to Trevor Lawrence, I think is great. That was one that I made. I mean, funny thing, we did a video about over a year ago, basically, where it was like a wish list video, and it was like you can either have Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning, and we were talking about how like in a perfect world we could have one of them, and now we got two. It's kind of funny, but I regress. But in that video, yeah, I'm pretty sure I compared him to Trevor Lawrence, even based on his earlier film, and I feel like that still holds true. Someone else did a different comparison as of late. I can't remember what they said, but there was another comparison floating around recently that I found interesting, but I don't know if I fully agreed with it. But yeah, I mean, really same thoughts as you. And of course, his leadership ability, I think, is another obvious sign of a good quarterback to have. Just every indication is that this guy is like, he almost sounds too perfect, outside of the skills, he just seems like, the perfect teammate, relates really well with everyone, but has an incredible head on his shoulders, raised by this incredible all-American family that just, I don't know, everything seems so put together. I can definitely see him, making some enemies with other teams, because he's going to come. He has this squeaky clean image combined with Texas, which is such a polarizing brand. That people are going to really hate that after, not even after a while. They already really hate it, but good leadership is another thing that I definitely look for in a quarterback, and I think is oftentimes undervalued. Going back to Sam Unger, he brought that factor. And while his skills weren't good, but not elite, I think the leadership ability definitely helped get Texas one step out of the super dark ages. Not that he took them crazy far, but you can't discount what Sam did. And it was raising the floor of the program. Nowhere near where we want to be. And, it ultimately didn't last quite like we thought it might, but it improved it for sure. So, yeah, let's transition now to his recruiting impact. Well, yeah, we'll come to that at the end, actually, because we're going to touch base on other commits later on in the video, but we'll come back to that. Let's just talk about dispelling any incorrect rumors or things associated with this arch commitment, specifically pertaining to Quinn Ewers. I'm sure if you watch our video, you're probably a pretty informed Texas fan, and you already know that some of this national media garbage is inaccurate, but we're going to touch base on it anyway. Myers, real quick, just hammer it out. Like, Quinn's going nowhere, correct? And this is going to be fine, correct?
Yeah, like this is actually perfect. I mean, it was pitched to the Mannings that the plan was to redshirt Arch 1 year and then have him take over as a redshirt freshman, which is perfect because Arch Manning's not going to be on the Texas football team this coming year. He'll still be in high school, and then Quinn Ewers will be a redshirt. He'll be a redshirt freshman this year, so his second year, and then the following year when Arch is being redshirted as a freshman, Quinn will be a redshirt sophomore and eligible for the NFL draft. And I'm sure Sark and the offense and Quinn Ewers. I mean, Quinn Ewers is #1 player in the nation. He's going to be looking to go pro as soon as he can. I mean, he's that good. So he'll be going to the league as a redshirt sophomore after hopefully we win a lot of football games and he puts up a lot of big numbers. And then that'll give Arch a year to ease into the system, which is good. You don't want to throw a guy that hyped up with such a spotlight on him, to the dogs immediately, because every move that Arch Manning makes on a football field is going to be judged from the day he arrives on campus. It's going to be a microscope on Arch Manning. And I think it lines up perfectly with him being redshirted. And that's what they want to do. I mean, the Mannings, they're all on the same page here. Sark and Millie communicated that to him. So yeah, the timeline actually lines up perfectly. So what we want is for Quinn Ewers to just ball out so he can go pro as a redshirt sophomore, and Arch will take over as a redshirt freshman as we hopefully head into the SEC. So yeah, I don't see any. I mean, it was reported, I think, by Horns 24/7 that Arch and Ewers were like hanging out during the official visit. Like he was being hosted. Like they're good buddies now. So and these are competitors. I mean, look at the Bama quarterback room. I mean, Bryce Young sat on the bench behind Mac Jones as a freshman. I mean, Bryce Young was like the #1 player in the nation, #1 quarterback. He sat behind like a 3-star Mac Jones. So, and a lot of these quarterbacks don't need to start right away. I mean, they don't want to sit for 2 years most of the time, but a lot of them are willing to sit for 1 year and learn the system. So I don't think it's a problem at all. I think the timeline actually lines up perfectly for Arch and Quinn to coexist and hopefully both be legendary quarterbacks for Texas.
Agreed. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just national media hopping the gun and just assuming like, oh, Manning's in, that just by default means that Quinn is gone, which first off, Quinn can't transfer anymore. He used that up. So he can't go anywhere, at least from what I understand. It's more about the other quarterbacks that we have to be more concerned about. Maybe not even concerned, but aware that changes to that room are definitely going to come. Let's touch base on that. Malik Murphy, very curious what's going to happen with him now. Hudson Card, I think everyone kind of assumed would probably leave at the end of this year. Even if he got some starting time, we definitely expect, Quinn to definitely take over the reins at some point in the season, because he kind of has to, unless there's a real struggle there. But As for Malik, who is immensely talented and definitely more of a development project, Myers, do you see him sticking around and maybe doing like a Mac Jones type thing? Is there a scenario where all three of these players could coexist per se, or what are, I mean, of course we don't know. I mean, we don't know anything really because anything can happen, injuries, weird transfers, all kinds of stuff. But thoughts on that?
I think it's really unlikely. Although I will say Malik Murphy is a really great leader. He's a stand-up guy that people gravitate towards. I feel like he's the type of person that would stick around. Seems pretty loyal. But I mean, I don't I don't expect him to stay and sit on the bench for 3 or 4 years behind Quinn and Arch and just provide depth. I think he's more talented than that. And I think I mean there's a chance he could like develop and become, like a real factor in the QB race. I mean, we shouldn't write off Malik Murphy. So I don't know. It's so early to tell, but I mean, in today's day and age, it's hard to envision Malik Murphy staying when you have such just rock stars ahead of him at quarterback, which is fine. I mean, you can't please everybody. You just got to stack as much talent as possible, and then if people leave, people leave. But that means that the people ahead of them are better. So it's good. I think Malik or Hudson will transfer probably eventually and end up doing well somewhere else. But I mean, back to what I was saying, I think Arch Manning will have no problem sitting for a year. But it's just like, and I think Malik, same thing for Malik. I think he'll sit this year behind Quinn and just kind of take things in, learn the playbook, and then go from there and reevaluate at the end of the season. So no, I think Malik Murphy, we'll just have to wait and see on that.
Yeah, agreed. It'll be something that will be a long, exciting journey to follow for sure. All right, last thing before we get into other commits, just talk about the Manning recruiting impact. The one thing about getting Arch, thoughts that I had is honestly the outside of having him to have him, one of the big reasons I feel like Texas needed him most is his recruiting impact. Getting a guy like Arch Manning on your team is going to instantly boost your recruiting ability because people want to play with Arch Manning. Very obvious. More so than our need for a quarterback, being that we have Quinn Ewers and, Sark is known now as this quarterback whisperer and has the ability to recruit quarterbacks at an elite level. I think even if we didn't get Arch, Sark would find a way to either get a transfer pretty readily that, I feel like would be pretty good. Probably not as good as an Arch Manning, but either be able to secure a transfer or just, what was his name? Justin Sayin. Like he was Julian Sayin, very interested in Texas and probably would have committed if Arch didn't. He's a 5-star too, 2024. So let's talk Myers' thoughts on the recruiting prowess that he brings, and then we can transition from that into the newest commits that have followed in this week of madness.
Yeah, the Arch Manning effect is unprecedented, I will say. I mean, it's honestly crazy. I mean, look no further than, I guess I'll jump to a commitment right now, but Derek Williams, this 5-star safety from New Iberia, Louisiana. Like we don't go and get players 5 stars out of there. Like teams don't just do that if you're not LSU or Bama. Like that just doesn't happen. And that's Arch Manning. That's the Arch effect right there. I mean, the amount of players that have just jumped on board as soon as they can get a spot in the aftermath of Arch Manning is crazy. We've had so many commits in the last week. I've lost count, at least 7 or 8, 3 5-stars. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we were hoping Ewers could be for Texas, but obviously that fell through. This is it at a whole new level, and it's only going to continue. I mean, not only do we have these great commits now, but we're trending for so many other good ones as well. But yeah, I mean, there are players that it may potentially hurt. For example, like you were saying, Julian Sand. He doesn't want to compete with Arch Manning, which is understandable. But he is a class below Arch, so it's kind of crazy that he's not even the same class as Arch, but doesn't want to play alongside Arch. So that just kind of speaks to maybe the talent and respect he has for Arch Manning. But yeah, I mean, the Arch effect, man, it's I can't say enough about it. I mean, all these other players, Anthony Hill, Cedric Baxter, I mean, Jalen Hale, we're getting crystal balls for now. Malik Muhammad. There's a lot of players that Texas really didn't seem like yeah, we were in on those recruitments, but now it's like Texas is the resounding leader in these recruitments. And it's all because, I mean, not all because of Arch, but mainly because of Arch Manning, committing, and then not even Arch Manning. And this goes to another point we're going to talk about, is the Manning family committing to Steve Sarkisian in Texas, giving the vote of confidence, the endorsement. And all these players all these recruits are taking notice, and they all want to follow suit because, I mean, you can't find a more respected football family and a respected football prospect in Arch Manning and the Manning family. So this is why it's so exciting. I mean, I would say like half the fun is because we're getting Arch Manning, the next Manning legacy, but the other half is because look at all this talent he's going to bring with him to the University of Texas. So it's like it's a great time, Trevor. This is a great time to be a Texas Longhorn.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to transition over to some of our newest commits really in the past week. I know that a lot have committed probably since we've done our last video, but being that we're trying to stay current and following really the hot commits right now, we're going to focus on really commits essentially post-Arch, or at least in the in this week or so span that have been going on since we've gotten so many. Myers, let's start, I guess, with the newest commit as of the moment. Of course, that might be dated because they just keep coming. So there might be a new one tonight or tomorrow or whenever this video's out. It may be old news, but let's talk about Johntay Cook, who it's kind of seemed like college football's worst kept secret that he was coming to Texas, at least for a little while, especially once Arch got in the boat. I felt like that really kind of sealed the deal for him. Talk about Johntay, kind of what kind of player he is, what he brings to the program, and I guess just his recruiting impact as well, being a 5-star is, well, depends on what service you look at, but at least a high 4-star, but probably soon a 5-star.
Yeah, he's a consensus 5-star from 247. That's probably the most used metric. So yeah, he's a 5-star from DeSoto. Johntay Cook kind of seems like this year's Evan Stewart. It seemed like he was always a Texas lean. And then A&M came on strong, and then A&M kind of took the lead for a while, it seemed like, in that recruitment. But Texas kind of fought their way back into it and was kind of back in the lead. And then all of a sudden, Arch Manning commits to Texas, and then that was a done deal from there. Johntay was pretty vocal the whole time that he wanted to play with Arch, and Arch wanted to play with Johntay. And the one mutual school they had was Texas. So, yeah, Johntay's a great player. I mean, I was talking to my buddies today trying to figure out like who's more talented, Johntay Cook or Evan Stewart, and they're in the same tier, I would say. Evan might have a little edge when it comes to like pure speed and athleticism, but Johntay, I think, is a more crisp, natural route runner. He's not slow. He's very fast, very twitchy. He's one of those smaller built receivers that Sark loves to utilize and give him an open space. But he can do it all. I mean, he's going to start as a freshman when he gets here. He's going to be paired alongside Xavier Worthy, and he's going to have Quinn Ewers at quarterback before Arch Manning starts playing. So it's Johntay Cook. That's huge. That's like Arch to Johntay is going to be a connection that we will be talking about for years to come. So I mean, that is a huge commitment for Texas, and it's good to get back in the DeSoto pipeline, because Texas has kind of struggled there recently. I know we did get Byron Murphy out of DeSoto recently, but Shamar Turner's a guy that we should have landed, but A&M got him. He's 5-star defensive lineman. So just an overall great job by Brennan Marion and Sark and staff to, really just seal the deal on that one. And it's weird because it was always supposed to be Johntay, Arch, and Ruben Owens together as the trio that comes to Texas. That was always the plan. But now it's looking like Cedric Baxter might be the trio, because they've all been in contact now with Ruben Owens coming to Louisville out of the blue, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, he was coming in for Texas, and he's just a great player, and I can't wait to see him suit up for Texas.
Yeah, let's we'll get back to Cedric Baxter in a bit, since he hasn't committed yet, and I guess won't until August, correct?
August 10th.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of time on him. But yeah, let's touch back then on a commitment that we talked about briefly a little bit earlier out of Louisiana, in Derek Williams Jr. Kind of speak to what Derek brings as well to a team. Obviously, another 5-star, very highly rated DB, which is important. I feel like we really need to continue building up that position, especially because it seemed for a while under Herman, they definitely built that position up a lot, but then with transfers and people graduating and moving on and stuff, I feel like that room's gotten a little more shallow. So kind of speak to the importance of him, not only as a player, but the position of need as well.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Williams is really good. I mean, the fact that he had all these offers, and that's kind of what's most impressive about it, was like we beat out Alabama and LSU, the home state LSU for him. He's a 5-star out of New Iberia. He's a big safety. I mean, he's like over 6'2". He definitely is super physical. I mean, the first highlight you watch on his huddle junior film is just him like decapitating a kid. So that kind of speaks to him as a player. A lot of his highlights, I mean, he's really athletic. He can come downhill fast. He can play in the box. He's versatile. I mean, he played corner and safety. And yeah, I don't want to say this because this may come off as like a bad thing, but he reminds me a little bit of BJ Foster, like the good characters in BJ Foster.
Yeah.
Seems a little more coordinated than BJ Foster, which is good.
The hard hitting.
Yeah, definitely has the hard hitting. He's the headhunter for sure. But I think he's more well-rounded than BJ Foster. I liked his coverage skills a lot in this highlight film, but man, he's a great player. And it was just such a surprise to see us land him. That one just happened like day of. I know we hosted him on that official visit this past weekend, but for Texas to close on that, we always talk about NIL and bagging players, and I don't know if we did. It may have just been Arch Manning and the high that Texas is riding, but this kind of seems like a player that maybe we spend a NIL money on, which is a welcome sight for us. So hopefully there's more to come with surprise commits like this. But man, I'm really excited to see Derek Williams at Texas, and it's good to see him. He was FaceTiming Johntay and Trey Wisner today after he had committed. So it seems like he's pretty locked in, and they're working on other Louisiana players. So it's good to see that Louisiana pipeline forming with Arch, Derek Williams, Will Randall. And now they're going after Jordan Matthews, another blue chip DB out of Louisiana. So this is a great commitment and a welcome surprise to see.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely was. Yeah, it was surprising to see him, commit like that. But yeah, let's move on to Texas. Got a slew of offensive line commits. I mean, that's not surprising at all. After Arch committed, and they're all a lot of big bodied guys, definitely nowhere near as highly rated or regarded as last year's commits turned signees. But let's speak to them as a unit. Kind of tell me about each of the different linemen briefly. I mean, we don't need to cover them too much, but kind of what they bring, as well as just looking at them as more of development projects, because I feel like, myself included, I'm sure every Texas fan, you know, when we were seeing all these commits just pile through after Arch Manning, it was like, oh, like 4-star, 3-star. Like, why are we settling for these lower level commits? We got to stick to the 5 stars. But I do think that they add much needed depth, and again, um, their size and everything is something that Kyle Flood could definitely work with. It will take them time to develop and everything, but hopefully they have that time with the signings that we got in the previous class that I think are just have the potential to be elite. But Myers, let's touch base. Give me your thoughts on these couple signings that we got so far. Commits rather.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool how they all, literally all four of them, I believe, committed in the same day, which is like you're pretty much your whole O-line class. I know we're gonna try to take one more if we can find, the right guy. They say Peyton Kirkland or Zalance Hurd is maybe the fifth O-line take, but I think we're gonna take around 5 this class. But it was just cool to see them all visit together and then commit together. So you want to have that kind of camaraderie on an O-line, people that are close. So, and then also they are ginormous. I mean, the pictures that were posted of them on the field next to Sark and all the other players these are like all like 6'6", 6'7" human beings. I mean, the one small one we took was Jaden Chapman, who's the highest rated of them all. He's like a mid-level 4-star, but he's like 6'4", 300 something. So he's not small really either. So, and that's how Kyle Flood likes him. He likes to get these big dudes that he can maybe slim down a little bit and just kind of develop and just turn them into future NFL players. And I'm just so excited to watch. That's probably one of the most intriguing things about this whole Sark experiment, is just seeing what Kyle Flood can do with these O linemen, because obviously we had that great class last year with all the blue chips. And now we're getting some of his, these are lower ranked guys, but they have the measurables to be NFL players for sure one day. So it's going to be fun to watch Sark and Kyle Flood develop them. But yeah, I mean, I think Trevor Gooseby is like 16 years old or something, and he's like 6'7", dunking a basketball. So there's just so much upside with all these players. And Texas definitely has a type. We have an identity when it comes to finding O linemen, which is good, because when it was Herman and Herb Hand, we had no idea what was going on. Like, it was just an absolute embarrassment. I saw a tweet that like we've already had 10 O line commits in 1.5 cycles so far under Sark, in comparison to 4 full cycles. With Herman, only 14 commits in total. So we're definitely prioritizing O linemen and getting big dudes on the inside, and then small fast dudes on the outside, which is like that's what Sark wants, and that's what we're finally getting, our roster to become. So I can't wait to see what this O-line, what this class looks like in 4 years from now. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll kind of, obviously there's been more commits than what we're going to cover here. But let's kind of round it out with another pretty recent commit in Billy Walton out of Oak Cliff. Speak to him a little bit, Myers, as well as kind of his ties to Malik Muhammad as well, who has not committed, but starting to look like will potentially join him along.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the 3 stars and the O linemen, and Texas fans were kind of looking around with like an eyebrow up, like, why are we taking all these 3 stars? We definitely shouldn't take them so quick. We have options now with Arch, but and I kind of agree with that to some degree. Like, for example, there's a particular O lineman that I don't think we should have taken, but I'm not gonna roast a 15-year-old kid on this. But Billy Walton's a 3-star that I do like a lot. I think he's got a lot of upside. He committed to what's his name, Derek Mason at Oklahoma State, which is a great defensive coordinator, and I think he's got a lot of good bend on the edge. I mean, I want to see him put on weight. Obviously, he's nowhere near. He's definitely a project, but I don't know. I like his film more so than I do the other 3 stars that we took. And Another thing I like about him is that he's from South Oak Cliff, which, I mean, that's a school that if you're playing defense, starting on their defense, that's when you know, like, this kid's got some dog in him, and he's going to be a competitor, and he's going to hit people, and he's going to be, he's going to be a standout player, which, I mean, we need to build that pipeline as much as possible. And you mentioned Malik Muhammad. That's apparently Billy Walton's cousin, and it seemed like as soon as we started getting Billy Walton, like silent commit, there was buzz that Billy Walton's about to flip. It seemed like right after that, Malik Muhammad, we got a bunch of crystal balls for him as well. So I think that they are really close together and really want to play together at the next level. And I mean, Malik Muhammad is, the prize jewel of, I mean, not to say Billy Walton is bad, but like Malik Muhammad's like a fringe 5-star level DB from South Oak Cliff that everybody wants. So if you can parlay Billy Walton into us getting Malik Muhammad as a package deal, then we're cooking. And I think that's kind of where we're at. It seems like Johntay and Arch and all these other guys are pretty confident that we'll be able to get Malik Muhammad, but there's a long way to go, obviously. But I think taking Billy Walton is also, he's a good player in himself with a lot of upside, but I think a lot of it's also to help get Malik Muhammad on the board as well.
Awesome. Let's now go into kind of final part of the show, touching on Malik Muhammad. Targets, people that we haven't secured the commitment of yet, but are top priority at the moment. Let's touch base first on the two big 5 stars on the board that we really need. We'll start with Anthony Hill, linebacker, 5-star, top rated at his position, one of the best players in the state. Looking like it's coming down to Texas and Texas A&M, good old recruiting battle there. What kind of a player are we getting in an Anthony Hill? Well, not getting, but hopefully would get rather in an Anthony Hill. And does Texas have a chance? Because I gotta say that, it's great that we're able to, sign and secure all of these offensive players, but at some point you really need to start bagging some 5-star defensive players to go along with it, because you can only go so far with offense only. And with a commitment like Arch, it's great to have that pairing again, a la Chris Sims and Corey Redding coming along together. I think that's important. But even though I guess you could say David Hicks, different position, but probably a little more coveted than Anthony Hill. But Anthony Hill first, then we can touch on Hicks.
No, you're spot on. We we're riding high right now, but we don't want to get in situations like Tom Herman where we don't have any blue chip guys on the in the front 7 on defense and on the offensive line. And I know we had a great lineman class last year, but we don't want to stray too far away from that this year. And Anthony Hill, linebacker out of Denton Ryan, I mean, that's the number 1 target on the board. Almost equally as big as Arch Manning, honestly, because if you get Anthony Hill, then you have your bell cow for the defensive side of the ball as well to pair with Arch. Yeah, like you said, like Corey Redding and Chris Sims. So yeah, Anthony Hill, it seems like this is the type of recruitment that A&M wins in recent history.
Yeah.
Same with David Hicks. But we did have the official visit with him last weekend, and he's definitely being recruited by Arch. I mean, Arch Manning posted on his Instagram story. He never uses his Instagram.
Oh, no. He's using it a lot now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. A picture of Anthony Hill saying, "You're next, like come join." So it's amazing to see Arch Manning and the whole Manning family. I mean, Inside Texas came out with a quote that was like chilling. Yeah, it was, "We want Anthony Hill." Texted we, like Cooper Manning referring to Texas as we. That's just a great look. I mean, it's hard. That's hard to say no to. Imagine getting a text from a Manning being like, "We want you at Texas." So that's hard to beat when it comes to recruiting, like a recruiting pitch. That's really unique and powerful. So It's all hands on deck for Anthony Hill, and I think this is a recruitment that Texas can win. We have got crystal balls for him over the last couple of days, or future cast, whatever industry it was. But yeah, Anthony Hill, that's the guy to get. As far as David Hicks, I don't think that's a thing. I mean, he did reach out to Texas. Apparently, as soon as we got Arch Manning, and kind of wanted to re-engage back with Texas. So we'll see. If he comes and visits, then maybe there's a chance there. But I feel like that's an Aggie or Georgia or Bama, something like that. I think that's going to be a guy that's going to be in a bidding war for, and I don't think that's the type of player that Texas would get. I mean, 5-star defensive lineman. We haven't had one in a while, since like Alfred Collins. So I think we're on the outside looking in there. Cedric Baxter, though, that's a guy that I really love. Cedric Baxter. I think he's better than Ruben Owens when it comes, at least based on his film. And that's a guy that we're sitting really pretty for. He got Fong to Texas, so that's always a great sign. He's from Florida. Offers from everybody. He put out his top 4: A&M, Texas, Miami, and Florida. So we'll see. I mean, it feels like we're on the lead here, but it's a long way to go till his commitment in a month, August 10th. So, but yeah, Cedric Baxter is the type of player that Alabama would have running back. Those freaks that you're just like, how is this guy a real human being? Cedric Baxter kind of has some of that in him. So that'd be amazing to pair with Arch and Johntay. That'd be just a ridiculous trio. So, I mean, that trio could be better than Ewers, Bijan, and Xavier Worthy one day. So, and that's assuming Ewers is good, which I think he will be. But right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good recruit. I mean, Michael Harrison Pilot's also a guy that we feel really confident about. High 4-star Darian Gillette out of Marlin, really athletic linebacker, which is, like I was saying earlier, these are needs. We need to get these SEC level blue chip linebackers and defensive linemen. Like that's the next step in our evolution, I guess, as a program. So yeah, I'm just Jalen Hale, we got a crystal ball for the receiver out of Longview. So it's just like up and down the board. It seems like Texas is trending for all these really good players, and we just need to make sure that we keep this momentum going, get these guys in the boat, and then win some football games. Because if we just keep this momentum alive by having a good season, then we will have a chance at a top 2 class. So I don't know. I mean, it looks really good right now. We'll see where we're at in a couple of months.
We'll see. I mean, that really kind of wraps it up. Any final thoughts as we conclude this video?
No, I just want to go back to just saying how we can't understate how amazing and how much of a factor it is to have the Manning family, the first family of football, in your corner. I mean, the quote of Peyton and Eli saying they look forward to coming to Austin to watch Arch's games in a few years. And just seeing them there, probably wearing burnt orange, at least Cooper, that carries so much weight, across the football fraternity, whatever you want to call it. It's so much clout there, and we're already seeing some of the benefits of it, through recruiting and other things. So it's really exciting time, and I'm pretty optimistic that this could be what we needed to get us back to where we need to be, but we'll see. It's a long way to go. Obviously, we need to win some football games this year, then we'll go from there.
Right. Yeah, definitely a step in the right direction. Big step, big day with that commitment from Arch, and yeah, and big for Sark. So really a congrats to him, his whole staff, AJ Milwee, Taff, all, not that Taff's a part of the staff, but for everyone that did their role in recruiting and getting Arch and getting the support and trust of the Manning family. That's hard to get, but I think at the end of the day, they feel like this is truly the best place for him. Even though like a Bama and a Georgia is a lot more established, and he definitely would win there. They were thinking ahead to NFL development. That's their end goal. It's not to be an elite. I mean, I'm sure he wants to be an elite college player, but they're thinking a next step, next level. And where do you want to go where you can be as developed and as ready to go as possible going into that, as a step in the journey rather than a destination per se. And I think that's Texas for now, under Sarkisian. So I think Sark bought himself some years and some stability, which also I think is good for the program. Hopefully, hopefully he's the right guy to get that level of stability. But that's one thing that Texas has lacked severely, really, since the days where the program was winning. It's been a constant carousel of not only head coaches, but coordinators and assistant coaches. It's really been a constant carousel. So I think that with securing this commitment comes some more much needed security as well with the staff, and can continue building, get back to the top. So if you guys are still watching, thank you for doing so. Again, we're sorry that we haven't been making these videos more often, but continue to be patient with us. And we appreciate all the nice comments that we do get. And yeah, exciting times at the university, exciting times to be a fan. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of good things to come, and definitely come closer to the season. We'll ramp up our content a little bit more, and all good things. So with y'all, take care, hook 'em, and yeah, welcome to the 40. Well, not welcome to the 40. He's still got a ways to go, but congrats to Arch on the commitment and all those that are committed.